orange, yellow, and welcome to Delta Sparks Pod. I am Evan.
I'm Andy.
AKA and Dewey. AKA Pop Pop Pop. And Dewey, we have a guest that we courted for a while.
We did. We were chasing him. We were shamelessly.
We sent pictures. We sent chocolates. Or was that just me?
No, I think the chocolates and roses and pictures were you. I bombarded him.
Roses. I didn't say roses.
I heard there was roses involved. Like this was like a proper courtship. That's what
Potato roses. I carved roses into potatoes and sent them.
Oh, that's somehow better for me. Like that's more work. Like that's more love to me.
It's care and tenderness.
Yeah, and potatoes.
Who doesn't love potatoes, eh?
Who doesn't love potatoes, eh?
Hey, Lee. Hey, we're not talking about cheese for once.
Oh my God. And there it is, because potatoes are better with cheese.
Yes. So we're not going to dilly-dally too much. So our guest hails from Ashland, Virginia. Our guest is an electrical contractor. Fun fact about our guest, this person failed 9th and 10th grade twice. Now, I don't know if that means like he took 9th grade twice and 10th grade twice, or however that is, but I'm impressed. You can find our next guest on Instagram at Haven Electrical. Please welcome to Delta Sparks Pod, Josh.
Yay! Hey! Hi, Josh.
Hello. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about the fun fact. Didn't fail. Took it twice.
Oh, that's very different.
Yeah.
For fun?
Well,
I took an STD test twice for fun, but.
And I mean, I'll do anything twice.
I was homeschooled as a most of my upbringing up until 8th grade. Went to private school. And then transferred from one private school to another. And my friend was in 9th grade. So I was like, well, I've done 9th grade. That's easy. I don't want to hang out with my friend. So did it again. And then
your friend failed 10th grade, and then you did it with him again twice.
No, not
You're
quite.
Such a good friend.
And then my parents wanted me to graduate from a public school because they found out through my older brother that it was a little bit more difficult to get a diploma through like homeschool. So I went to public school in 10th grade, and all my friends were in 10th grade. So I did it over again. So I did 9th and 10th grade twice.
I would say you seem like a pretty smart fella.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I'm surprised I never had to do a grade over. I think it was for the simple fact, not that I was like dull, because I was disruptive a lot, and like I like to party. So yeah.
Shocking.
There's an Eddie Murphy song about me.
I almost didn't make it through 12th just because I skipped so much that just wasn't there.
You know what? I almost didn't make it through 12th as well because I wasn't there for 6 months of my senior year. But that wasn't my choice. They decided to sit me home for 6 months.
Whoa.
So you were a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Un poquito. So
I did a 5th year of high school.
No one's surprised.
That was my choice.
I was literally done in 11th grade. I'd already kind of done every class that I needed to do to graduate. So at the last 12th grade, it was just like I showed up for tests,
electives,
passed them.
Yeah. My English teacher senior year, when I came back to school after my sabbatical, as I called it, he knew I was just there to be there.
Yeah.
And English was my last period of the day. So he literally pulled me aside the first day I came back and was like, I never want to see you in my class. I guarantee that you'll pass this class as long as I never have to see you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, dope. Let's
quality education.
Word.
Yeah, look at me now, Mom. I got a podcast. Okay. So everyone knows how this works. There is no rhyme or reason to it. Josh, we have a couple of topics of which we'd like to pick your brain on. This is a trade-ish focused podcast, obviously. So I think the first thing I'd like to know, because I like to ask most people this, is how you got into the trades and electrical, like specifically, because there are so many different options out there.
You know, my father told me that he knew when I was 4 years old that I was going to be working with my hands for the rest of my life, which is awesome because, you know, my other brothers went to college and did that. And I think I was 14 when I started laying cinder block as a mason.
Oof.
And I just did it during the summertime. And then I went next year, I was building pools with another fella. And then I was bagging groceries at U-Crops. And then I graduated from high school. And it just so happened that the girl I was dating at the time's father owned an electrical company.
Handy.
And I started working for him right out the gate. And I love it. Never stopped. Haven't skipped a beat since.
What kind of electrical was that? Was that you did with him?
I went. It was all residential for the most part. I did a little commercial here and there, but it was mainly residential.
Now, you say right out of high school. Do your high schools have anything that kind of you can do like hours and stuff towards that, or like a co-op, or like we have an OYAP situation here, which is
OYAP.
It's a Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. So basically, you start your apprenticeship while you're in high school, and the hours that you earn go towards your apprenticeship.
Okay. Yes, I'm pretty sure that the schools do have that here because I I've thought about trying to get in there and try to meet some of these characters that are going through the program at the high schools. It's not something that was on my radar when I was in there. So if I had done that instead of doing masonry work or building pools, I probably would have been like, man, I love this. I really want to get into it. Here's some classes I can take. I probably would have gone that route.
But you also could have ended up a plumber.
Right.
That's a scary thought.
I take that back.
It's a shitty business.
I have a very big issue with germs. So I don't know if I would have gone that route. But,
yeah, I'm not a big fan of poop either.
Yeah. I know enough about it. I did the plumbing in my house, and there hasn't been any leaks or any explosions yet. So very good.
Yeah, I've been battling my boiler all week. So
you have a boiler?
I have an oil boiler.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Man. No, I didn't have hot water like to take a shower for a week.
I've seen in I think it was Nicaragua. My brother went there, and they had electricity hooked to a heating element right under the water spigot. So there are worse things.
Evan, that might be an option for you if this boiler thing doesn't really work out.
You know, if the boiler thing doesn't work out, just take the wires and just connect them to my nipples and throw me in a pool. Okay? So started with like your, now I'm assuming ex-girlfriend's father.
Yes.
Slowly got into that. So did you always want to own your own company? Because I believe you're just over the year mark, maybe like a year and 4 months since your company hit the 1 year anniversary of being open.
Right. I was an electrical contractor for about 4 years before that, just for a bigger company that was a turnkey operation.
Okay.
And how does it work where you are there, Josh? I know Evan says that his company, you have to have a master electrician, but you can have people who aren't necessarily licensed working under that master person. Is that how it works, Evan?
Yeah, New Jersey's the Wild West.
Okay.
In the state of Virginia, I can have as many employees as I want. I have to carry a Class A contractor's license and my master's to get your contractor's license, you have to have your master's and you have to pass the contractor's license test for the state of Virginia. Yeah, I could have.
So it's like New Jersey,
anybody. Yeah, I could have anybody I wanted working for me. They don't have to be, they don't have to carry a journeyman's card or anything like that.
Okay, cool. Like here,
very similar.
We can have electrical helpers, but it's very specific what they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to have their hands in wiring wise. Whereas anybody who's actually doing any sort of installations and such have to be licensed apprentices or licensed journeymen.
And I like that. I think that makes it more prestigious than it does here. Here it's just you can be super good at what you do and, stick with a company all you want. And you had asked me, is it starting my own company a thing I always wanted to do? And it was for sure. The first guy I ever worked for, my ex's father, he was just an awesome dude. I was just like, man, this is what I want to do one day. So I knew I had to pass my master's test in order to make it to where he was.
Right.
And so I did. I always wanted to have my own company, and that was my focus. And I think when you have a prestige level like you do where you're at, Andy, I think that gives people more motivation to push forward. Here is just, you can work, you can be really good, and you can always possibly get paid more, but there's no you get a journeyman's card, it's
there's no benchmarks that you're aiming for.
Good job. No, it's once you pass your master's, that's when you can keep it going.
Right.
So random question. Where did the name Haven come from? Because that's the name of your company, right?
Yeah.
Haven Electrical.
So it's came from. So my father used to read me The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as a child, religiously every night, and he named his truck that he gave me before he passed away the Gray Haven. So I still have that. That's what I brought out of retirement these past few days to put back on the road. So I've just always loved that name, and it's actually in the Lord of the Rings, it's the name of the harbor that carries the elves to their heaven.
Right.
So it's always had a cool background and a cool story behind it. So when I was deciding on my company name, it was between Roaring Pines, which I do mainly residential work, so not sure if that's the best idea. Because,
Fire.
Yeah. So went with Gray Havens, and then I was like, that's too long, and then I just settled with Haven Electrical.
I like it.
So,
I like it too. It's very. It's memorable.
Yeah, it is very memorable. I'm now tempted to do the rest of this podcast in my Schmiegel voice.
Please don't.
I might throw it in there.
I want to hear your Schmiegel voice.
It's not bad, but for the rest of this podcast, it'll get really old.
Josh, what have been the biggest struggles and lessons you have learned in your 1 year of business?
All right, now hit that back for everybody who muted you immediately when you started that. Give me that in English.
What has been so when you say you worked or you were a contractor for 4 years for another company,
yeah,
is this company Haven your first, you by yourself, no one else attached, balls to the walls, making it happen?
Yes, absolutely. When I was carrying the contractor's license, it was just under my name and my permit numbers.
Right. So in this first year of being out on your own, no one else attached, what have been some of the bigger struggles you've run into? And what are some of the lessons you've learned in this first year that maybe if somebody else who's listening is planning or hoping to start their own company one day, that they wouldn't have thought of or even would come into their brain that might be able to help them out, unless they're living in your area and you don't want the competition?
If they're living in your area, please mute the podcast now. Come back to us in 4 minutes.
No, it's funny. Some of my So one of my best friends is, a company owner for. I don't consider anybody a rival company. Honestly, I do something different than everybody else does, and everybody's got their own ways of doing things. So I don't really have any problems with that at all around here. Lessons learned. Let's see. A lot of thought went into when I started my company. Number one, when I first came out the gate with what I was doing, I wanted it to be kind of religion based, and immediately kind of shut that down. Like,
It's kind of polarizing, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't want to deal with politics or religion. It just cuts things in half right out the gate, and you don't want to do that as a business owner. And I have a lot of people actually message me on Instagram asking me for advice on these things, and that's one of the things I tell them. And some of them are like, well, we want ours to be completely religion based, so we're going to go this route. I'm just like, okay. You ask me for information, I give it to you. Find a great accountant. Thank God I did, because I brought her a stack of papers that was like that high. And I was just like,
here you go.
Help me, please.
That was my first year. And it went good. She helped out really well. I have a much better idea of what I'm going to be doing this year. I'm going to have month-to-month statements in every single folder, and I'm going to keep receipts a little bit better.
Look at you, like a real boy.
Organization, I like it.
Definitely have a client base. I mean, that was huge for me. If you're going to go out on your own, have a lot of people that respect you and are pushing you in that direction. I had people telling me that I should start my own business years before I started it. And I think that's a great thing to have behind you, because, if you can't pick yourself up, other people will.
Advertising through word of mouth and whatnot.
It's kind of funny. It wasn't short after I found out how big the trades were in Instagram and how cool I thought it was, that I was just like, there's so many people out here doing what I've wanted to do. And they're advertising on Instagram, which I had never thought about. And I was just like, I can do this. I mean, here we go. So I just started doing it, and I immediately got a couple jobs right off Instagram. And I was just like, well, if I can do it this fast and I got this kind of backbone, I had 2 builders lined up. I was like, it's time to go. And so I just hit the floor running.
Nice.
Love that.
So you had talked about doing things differently, right? Finding, your way. Everyone has to find their own path. I'll say the first thing that really attracted me to your account specifically was these custom light fixtures you're making and installing. I really want to know, like, where did that start? What was the inspiration behind that? And like, for me, because that's something I've been looking into, like wanting to build my own custom fixtures. How did that play a part in the business side of things? Or has it yet?
No, it has. It's been really interesting the way that that's unfolded. So I've always liked to build things. Like I said, ever since I was a kid, I was always working with my hands. I was building the most astronomical forts that anybody had ever seen. I grew up on 20 acres on the river, so I had tree houses that were way up in the sky. It was awesome. Wow. But it just kind of, I have really bad anxiety, and what I started to do when I had bad anxiety was to think of these projects that I wanted to do. And I just kind of go through it in my mind until that's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about, oh gosh, I'm in this situation that I don't want to be in. Now I'm involved in figuring out how to make this work.
So, like laying out that mental blueprint of like, here's the material I'm going to need. Here's how I want it to look. Here's the tools I'm going to need. Here's the process I'm going to have to lay it out and do these steps and that kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, materials, colors, I've thought of some crazy stuff, man. I still haven't figured out how to build some of these things that I've thought up in my mind.
I have to say the lights that you build, like I'm so drawn to the creativity behind them. Like even I'm like, I'm creative, and then I see your stuff and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not that actually creative. Maybe not.
No, I mean I've been creative ever since I was young, and it's just it's a way for me to break away from just the dark stuff of my life. And it works. There's some things that I'll jot down when I can if I have a piece of paper and I've really got something dialed in. I mean, there's some stuff that's super easy in my opinion, like just really great concepts that people love, like the 6 foot big pine beams that have mason jars hanging off of them. It's just, I started posting stuff and people, started paying attention to my lights a lot, which I posted because I thought they were cool, and it's electrical based.
Yeah.
I had some people reach out to me at retail stores, at restaurants. I've had people put some of my stuff in their stores, and so a lot of people have been drawn to the stuff I create.
When you say put stuff in your stores, do you mean carry it to sell or actually install it in their stores?
So I've done both. I've installed in their stores and they carry to sell.
Very cool.
The flip side of that coin is I'm not big on reproducing things. So I got to where people were asking me for these mason jar beam lights, which is fun because you're going to like antique stores and like hunting down these cool old jars and trying to find like original stuff for this. But it just gets, it's then becomes a job.
You kind of lose the creative aspect of it when you're just replicating what you've done already, right? Yeah. I'm creative. I can bullshit my way through this.
I like making weird off the wall stuff that hopefully nobody has seen before, and that's what keeps my interest in it more than anything.
I want to see a deer head where the antlers have candelabra bulbs at the end.
I have one of those in my bathroom downstairs. It's right of my.
Of course, you
urinal.
fucking do.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was very nervous where you were going with that, Evan.
I like to keep people on the.
I'm like, no.
I wasn't gonna say like I wanted to see like an 8-eyed dildo monster that lit up from the backside. I don't know.
That's on his upstairs bathroom.
That's next to the what's that thing called where it shoots water up your pooper?
The bidet.
Bidet. Yeah. I was gonna say duvet, and I'm like, I think that's a bed sheet, not a.
Yeah, I keep the dildo monster next to the bed.
I mean, hey, not the worst place. So speaking of dildo monsters, you you touched upon anxiety. If you couldn't tell, we like to talk about serious things.
I love the bridge between those two things.
It's my gift.
Monster. It really is.
It's my gift. We like to talk about serious things, but we like to talk about it in a very conversational, light way, if possible. Because for me, I'll speak for myself, like talking about serious things in a very serious way sometimes is hard for me to talk about. And it's also hard, I feel, for people to understand or connect or relate to what I'm saying because maybe they just have never felt that way, or maybe they don't want to connect to that because they don't want to identify that in themselves.
It's too real.
So it's too real. I love what you talked about using these, for lack of a better term, coping mechanisms for your anxiety, which has led to something that has allowed you to explore the creative side and kind of also then put it out here in social media world and connect to other people. My anxiety was at such a high point over the summer that I needed an outlet because I was stuck in a 700 square foot cottage waiting to buy a house in the middle of a pandemic. And I was like, well, I see, like you said, I see these other people doing this shit on Instagram. Why can't I? Right. And let me get on there. And then boom, my whole world exploded because I didn't understand what this was. But if you're comfortable, me and Andy have talked about it on our first live we did. Andy described what an anxiety attack she had felt like for her, and I described what anxiety feels like for me. What does anxiety feel like / look like for you?
Well, I've I've dealt with it I had my first real panic attacks when I was 22 years old, and it actually lasted for days. It was really bad to where like I was just like, man, I don't know if I can live my life like this kind of feeling. So my dad really worked with me well as far as getting out of that mindset. And there's like really good ways of dealing with things and bad ways of dealing with things. I was young. I was in my early 20s, and so I was masking it by drinking quite a bit at times when I was having bad anxiety. And it turns out now drinking gives me anxiety. So stuff evolves as you get older. But so for instance, like it just depends on what scenarios I'm in and like what I have on my plate. Like going to a wedding can bring up a lot of anxiety for me because I'm around a lot of people. A lot of mine is sparked by social interaction. I had a panic attack. I think it was last Monday or Tuesday. And it basically, I'm asleep and then I wake up whenever. It could be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. It could be during the day, but I just woke up 2:30 in the morning, eyes wide open, heart going as fast as you possibly can. My immediate thoughts like, hey, let me strap on my Apple Watch and see what this thing's peeking out at right now.
Yeah, because that helps.
I love the people that tell you to breathe because I've been trying that method for years and I've gotten really good at like breathing, but I mean it never really masks what your brain will actually when it decides it wants to go one way, trying to tell it to go another is completely different. And when I have panic attacks, like there's no lights getting formed in my head. I'm way out in left field. Right. The only thing I can do is really walk. I try to, move as much as possible. So at 2:30 in the morning, I'm like pacing back and forth outside of my deck or walking up and down my stairs. Trying to cool down is one thing, like having cold air hit me. So it just like it hits me really hard. Like I want to go to a hospital. Everything in my mind tells me that this is it. Like you need to go to a hospital. You can't do this. You can't make it through this. And I've been through that situation so many times in my life, and I've never gone to the hospital for anxiety. Like my mother is a nurse and my father's a psychiatrist. They're both very, know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's just a thing that I work through, and it's there's just like there's no bag that I put over my mouth and breathe into that really brings me back. It's really just time. I woke up at 2:30. I passed out from probably exhaustion by about 5:30 in the morning from just fighting it off. And I don't know what it came from. It could have come from stress of work, stress of anything, just when it hits you and you just got to hold on.
Right.
I can relate.
Just ride it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of a ride too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I mean, there's definitely different levels of anxiety.
I mean, I still text my mom and I'm 35 years old. I'm doing like, this is it. I'm gone. I'm 2:30 in the morning. Mom, come on.
Yeah. Love you.
Yeah. I was starting to have an anxiety attack this morning at work. Me and Andy were talking about it before you hopped on. Like for me, and I try to find to the best of my ability, like you talked about, like where my anxiety is coming from, right? What are my trigger points, or like what are the things that really pop it off for me? Definitely large social gatherings, 100% for me, which some people find hard to believe because I'm such a sociable person. But there's something about being in large crowds that just makes me feel overwhelmed. I think really all of my anxiety comes from a lack of control.
Exactly.
You know, I can only control me, and even that sometimes is hard.
Like you're
And I
not
say
gonna
that
go on, you're not going to go on vacation and not drive your vehicle there.
right, right. I mean, I'll fly, but I want to have a car when I get there. Like I don't like being trapped. I like having an exit plan. But I like I say, you know, I was jokingly, you know, said like only thing I can control is me. Sometimes, I've never said this out loud to a group of people. I have Tourette's. I don't have the, you know, the fuck shit cock, like not that kind of Tourette's. That's just me.
Yeah.
I have the physical form of Tourette's, and
Yeah.
I'm very self-conscious of it, even like doing these videos, because I can feel my shoulder doing things, and that
Yeah.
all is anxiety from anxiety. Like I can control myself, but I also can't control these tics, these twitches at times, and it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where I'm anxious, so that happens, and then I get anxious because it's happening and I can't stop it.
It's very cyclical.
Yes, so having something to focus on, whether sometimes that's I can mentally just focus on something else and take my mind away from it. Most of the time I have to like actually do something. You know, it's the old saying, you know, move a muscle, change a thought.
Right.
I have to take myself out of the current space situation that I'm in and go do something or interact with somebody and take the focus off of me and get involved or interested or focused on something else.
Yeah.
Which is why I was so interested to talk to you about your lights, because before we had ever talked, looking at your lights, and don't take this the wrong way, I saw that and I said, there's a method to his madness, or there's a madness to his method, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in like some of the most amazing artwork or amazing things or whatever it may be come from people who have that duality of where's the line between genius and crazy. And I don't say crazy in a joking way. I mean like, you know, having issues. For me, I ride that line most days. Not that I do anything that great, or I'm putting it out my full potential, but I personally feel that there's a certain level of emotional intelligence or emotional frequency that people, and I'll speak for myself, like myself, that I feel emotions at a higher level in certain emotions, and that causes this combustion, this pressure that I have to let out, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, that comes out in a creative way. Sometimes, if I'm not lucky and I'm not taking care of myself, it comes out in I relapse. I start drinking and doing whatever's in front of me again. A destructive way, or I isolate.
Right.
I shut down. I've spent weeks in a room.
Sounds a bit like the fight or flight. Did I say that right? Yeah, fight or flight.
Fight or flight. Yeah. But there is a middle ground where it's
a middle ground.
Frozen.
It's exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I isolate. I'm an isolated person. I built my house out in the middle of the woods, and that's 100% because I don't want to be around people. I don't. Not that I don't love people. Like I think you guys are great, and this is awesome.
Well, we think you're swell too.
Yeah. We think you're pretty great.
It is isolation is a real thing. I like being out here where it's quiet.
For me, I have the opposite. I have higher levels of anxiety when I'm not around people. When I'm sitting around doing nothing on my own, sitting in my house, usually just my husband and I, like we just came out of a pretty intense lockdown with the only things that were open really were grocery stores. And
strip clubs.
Yes, of course. The essentials. And for me, I was I felt like I was losing my mind. I've been working crazy hours that I've never worked before because I'm feeling that pressure to be around people rather than going into that social isolation for myself.
Right. And
Yeah, I
Evan
get
touched
that.
on it. He touched on it. I mean, it really is busy hands, clear mind. I mean, I'm out here by myself, but if I stop and lay down, you better believe I'm going to sleep within the next hour. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just started playing Battlefield because I can't sit still without doing something with my
Distraction.
mind.
Yeah.
So I actually downloaded the game and started playing for the first time in I don't know how long. And it helps, like, because I've noticed lately that I've just been working hard, so hard that I'm just not stopping.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I have to stop. I
I
had a
find
pretty bad
Sorry.
spot this past Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Like I went low and I didn't come back up for a few days.
Yeah.
And it happens if you don't watch it.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite sayings is idle hands are the devil's playthings. And I find that when I sit and I do nothing, I am a slug. I do nothing. I am not a contributing member of society. Well, that's not true because I do Uber Eats a lot. So I do kind of contribute to society. But like I'm finding like laundry's not getting done, dishes aren't getting done because I'm just home and I'm on my couch and the exhaustion takes over me and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I just
There's a big connection between the way your surroundings look and where your mental health is at.
Mhm.
And my dad used to say this to me all the time. My dad's not a psychiatrist, but he could be. He used to say, ask me how I was doing, especially in those long periods of isolation. He'd be like, I'm fine, And for those of you who don't know there Andy was starting to say the acronym of what fine is, it's fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And he'd say, if you're fine, then why does your room look like a bomb just went off?
Yeah.
Why is there laundry on the floor? Why is there empty soda cans? And I found that when I finally got to the point of where that fight or flight, I finally came out of what I call the freeze, right? That in between, where I was either going to say fuck it and just take off, or I was going to actually take care of shit. When I took care of shit and I cleaned up my space, I don't know where the correlation comes from again, but cleaning up my space, whether it's the act of cleaning it up or being in a clean space, made me feel like I was ready to now start moving again.
Right.
So with all that heavy talk, I think it's time for Josh to give us just a tip.
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt you. I just want to know, Josh, do you find that Instagram and your social media kind of has helped towards dealing with any sort of your anxiety, or is that kind of a separate thing for you? Is it more like business minded, or like does that kind of pair in it at all?
I think the one thing that I've tapped into in Instagram that I didn't expect was community. Great friends. I don't have a lot of friends just because of, my crazy weird things that I got going on. But like Chris from the lower 48. Well, all right,
friend of the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. He has been a really good friend of mine. I've said, when it came to me proposing to my now fiance, it was my family, and then Chris from the lower 48 were the first people to know.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
Yes.
you. And it all kind of started when I first got on Instagram and realized what was going on. Joe, the Canadian carpenter, was the first guy I saw that was just like, this guy's out here just, he's building houses and he's showing everybody what he's doing. And like, I never thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of it's just this rolling ball. And then you just pick up all these great people along the way. And it's been awesome. Like, it really has been. Like, there's so many people out there that I talk to on a almost weekly basis, either say hi or how are you doing or hope you have a good day. It doesn't matter what it is, but they're out there and they're still gonna listen to you and talk to you, which is a great thing to have.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, right? Like, who are all these cheery motherfuckers?
Hi, we're Canadian.
Yeah, I think half of the people who follow my account I interact with are from Canada.
They're the
What do you
best.
guys put Prozac and the maple syrup up there or something?
Jason from Viking Builds is like one of my favorite people ever. Like, I talk to him pretty frequently, and he's just great. I love him.
As I enjoy his content quite a bit. I just love how all the different people I've connected with from all over the world, like
Absolutely.
U.S. and Canada for sure, but like I talk to people in Australia on the regular,
The UK. Yeah.
Pretty
New
much
Zealand.
anywhere that speaks English, I can interact with. Beyond that, no habla anything but.
I also find, like, for you, how you're saying you don't really want to be around people. I find, like, Instagram is a nice way of having that community, but still keeping, like, separate. Like, yeah, we're, like, friends, but stay the fuck away from me, like, actually in person. But
well, you can turn off the phone, and it's easier than saying, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the notification come up on your home screen. You don't have to swipe it, because then they see that you've seen it. That's
just leave them on red. Yeah, we in Canada don't actually say get the fuck out of my house. But one of my best friends, she had a birthday party back before COVID, and she traditionally is an early sleep, like goes to bed pretty early. So she hung a banner and it said, or he hung a banner for her and it said, "Happy birthday, Mel. Please leave by 9" on the banner. It was a beautiful thing.
That's great.
Oh,
I'm
man.
usually asleep by 9.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be, but it never happens. I'm usually asleep by 10, if I'm lucky.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a night owl.
I crawl in bed at like 7:30 if I can, and like turn on some sort of movie or do something that where I'm just like,
or like Delta Sparks podcast,
laying vertical with my head on a pillow, thinking about sleeping.
Thinking about sleeping.
Good,
I like
good
it.
spot to be.
So
Speaking
give
of
us
good
your
spot.
tip. Give us your tip. Just the tip.
Yeah, I thought about this for a while. I thought I was like, what is a good tip that I could give you?
Insert into our listeners' audience.
And it kind of like, it all kind of came back around and around to the same thing, and it was just like a lot of what brought me to starting my own business was so many people telling me how hard it was and how few people make it. And I just think, like, honestly, like, my tip would be, like, if you're passionate about something, do it regardless of what other people say, and definitely have the people in the background cheering you on, and like embrace that, because there's no end to what a human being can really do. And being an electrical contractor is definitely not on the top of the list of the most magnificent things that people have done. So I think people just should go for what you want to do, and don't let anything hold you back, for sure.
I like that.
it.
Yep.
I want to run faster than a cheetah.
Good luck.
Nah, I believe that there's actual ways that we could hook up motors to your legs that we could get you.
I was gonna say we just drug all the cheetahs.
Well, if you got a cheetah, because they can only like sprint for like a short period of time. So if you got it after that, like it's already done like a little bit of running, you might be good.
Oh, you mean like gas it first? And
yeah.
Then
I'll just cold cock it right at the starting line.
I immediately went into the mechanicals of how I can make Evan run faster than shoot, and he immediately went to how can I slow down.
I'm like, let's get some drugs into this big cat.
Good kitty.
I'm actually the real Tiger King. Okay.
Yikes.
So, lightning round. Are you ready, Josh?
Lightning.
No.
These are about 5 questions that have no importance or relevance to anything or anyone ever in all time and space.
Do I get pass? Do I get lifelines?
I don't think you're going to need lifelines. These are like specific
They're
to
silly.
you.
so I can't call a friend or anything like that.
You can call a friend, but
It's only if the friend is me.
yeah,
50-50.
50. Is that your final answer? Okay, so ready? Clear your mind. If you owned a boat, what would you name it?
My first answer was easy, so I can't go with that one.
No, easy answer. This doesn't have to be anything.
It would be the Grey Haven.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
I like it.
Mine would be Schmiegel's penis. Because then I could just walk up and be like, "Hey guys, this is
My precious.
That's my process.
My
Oh
precious.
my god.
Watch out for icebergs.
Nerds, bunch of nerds.
yeah, boats and hoes." My
Oh,
fun fact is I
goodness.
actually know that whole rap from Step Brothers.
I did. I could recite the whole movie with you if you
The
wanted
Nina
to.
and the Pinta and the Santa Maria, Adia in the bottom while you're drinking sangria. Nachos. Mama had them. My dad's boat. Don't worry, go down because my dick can float. Sailing around the world, going port to port. Every time I come, I produce a quart. Andy, why do you ever drink anything?
I don't know. I should know better. That was almost 2 spit takes on this episode
I know.
alone.
All right, next question. What is your favorite city that you don't live in? Other than the one you live in.
I'm trying to think of ones I've been to.
All right, well, how about we'll tailor this? What's your
I have
favorite
been
fort
to-
you've ever built?
My favorite fort that I ever built was in the field at the house I grew up at. There's this huge oak, and I was 21, and me and my friends were drinking pretty good. And one of the things was, as long as we were on the property, we were allowed to drink, but we weren't allowed to leave. So we would always have like motocross races or all these things you shouldn't do while you had a couple
I was
of
gonna
drinks.
say, man, like this sounds.
But
Kids, don't do this at home.
we built a treehouse, and I think the top platform was about 40 feet up in the air.
Oh.
And it was just this big deck out on top of the tree. It was awesome. Loved it.
That's
Very
gonna do
cool.
it.
Thought about going
All right.
back there and seeing if I could see if it still exists. But
Put up some of your
Probably
custom
so.
light fixtures in it.
there's no way. Yeah, there's no way somebody's climbed up there and actually taken it down. So I hope
You
it's
never
still
know. I hope so too.
Mhm.
Invite one person to dinner, dead or alive. Who is it?
there. Jeez. My dad. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yep.
like it. All right. This is a tough one. Where's the strangest place you've ever urinated?
Probably out in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay on the back of a jet ski.
Yeah, I
Was
like
the
it.
jet ski moving?
It was rocking back and forth. It wasn't,
In action.
Okay.
I wasn't like throttling.
You weren't throttling.
And it wasn't like
Okay.
scared pee.
Yeah, so I don't know. For some reason, when
Scared
I
pee doesn't
decided
count.
when
That's
I
what I
decided
mean.
I had to pee at that moment, I turned around and peed off the back of the jet ski. I guess if I had been going and just kind of turned sideways and let the wind take it, it would have worked at the same time. But yeah, no,
Oh,
my thought
God.
was to just stop and turn around and right off the back.
All right. I like it. Our last question. How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant?
I don't know. I feel like one could do the damage, but I don't know.
Okay. One.
All right. I like it. At least one.
You heard it here, folks. It takes just one elephant and
Nope.
one chicken to create the ever-loving, ever-stopping dildo monster. All right. Well, Josh, from me, Andy, and our 3 listeners, we want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us here on Delta Sparks Pod.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, please go check out Haven Electrical on Instagram.
Yeah, all three of you, go check him out.
All three of you, which you probably already follow him, and if you don't, you're a moron. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow. Go to deltasparkspod.com. Show us some love. Andy, should we take him out?
Yes, we absolutely should.
Be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself.
Super uncomfortable.
Yeah.